let's get started. I'm going to try to compose this drawing upside down, so bear with me if it goes a little slowly. This color table, which you were asked to construct in class, is created with columns of color along the top here. These are the labels of the various colors that compose your marker set, and in the rows are a series of grays that go from light to dark. So let's see, from the bottom I start with a cool gray 30 to 50 to 70, warm gray 30 to 50 to 70, etc. Right? And you make those marks across in order to evaluate the gray effect on color. That's the point of this exercise. Then the in-class exercise was to colorize this axonometric drawing, and I showed you the result of that exercise, and now I'm going to, using a very small set of colors, go ahead and replicate that, I hope, doing it upside down. Right? So you'll remember that the casework was wood, and that the countertop was a rather unusual shade of green, swirly, crazy marble. I used a lime green to get started with that, and this sand marker to begin rendering the wood. So I'm going to apply, always work from light to dark, right? Here's, make a little swatch of it so you can see what color you're applying. So I'm going to apply this sand color to the front, to the surfaces, the exposed surfaces of the casework. Here I'm drawing on the wall cabinets. Rather disorienting to be drawing upside down and see the result right side up on the screen, but that's alright. Okay. Notice I'm not worried about going outside the line, so to speak. I'm applying the color liberally and loosely, and I encourage that in drawing. You don't want to get too rigid in your application. Let's see, that surface. Let's not forget the base cabinets. We're ignoring for the time being the directionality of textures that characterize wood. Right? Wood has a grain, and if I were drawing or rendering a wood floor, we'll have a lesson later in creating those textures. We want to make marks that correspond with the direction of that grain, but for the purposes of this exercise, I'm ignoring that right now. Okay. Now I'm going to take a light green color and apply it to the counter top, so the surface is facing upwards. So this is a lime green, which is fairly light. You don't have to do this with the same colors that I'm using. You can take an analogous set of colors and texture choices. At some point you're going to make decisions about the palette that you're going to apply to your illustration. And don't forget, the illustration is, the point of the illustration is to convey a representation of your design idea. It's not to accurately represent the realistically render the image. That's the purpose of a photograph. The illustration is a work of fiction that you control, but that has to communicate your idea. Okay. I used for the floors an ochre color. So we're going to start with the lighter of the ochres. This is called the yellow ochre. Upside down, the floor begins about there. Right. In this case, maybe I'll go with the direction that the floor grain of the floor strips would be oriented. They'd be parallel with the casework, the orientation of the casework. Oops, I'm between two surfaces here. That's going to get a little bit. Can I go this way? I think. Alright. For my walls I used a very light gray tile, but we're going to skip that for now because gray does not... Try to avoid the use of gray as a primary color. It doesn't reproduce well, and even though you may like it as a palette color, for purposes of exercises like this, to visualize the effect that you are having, you're better off applying colors. Sorry, I'm looking for my 30% gray. Here's a 10. Let's go ahead and use this 50. It's okay, that'll come across. So we talked about how to create the shadow in class, basically displacing the shapes that we see here, translating them. Here I'm drawing around these edges and then tracing a line back towards them. Right? So that means that this area, again, it doesn't need to be precise where the shadow is cast. There's this gray color. How long is this taking? It's 10 minutes. Okay. I won't go more than 15. So there is roughly the shadows that are cast. I made a mistake there, but no big deal. Also, the west facing, if you will, surfaces of the casework is also going to be darker. So here, so what am I doing? I'm combining the gray with the light wash of color that I already have there. So go right over these west-facing surfaces. There's one, right? There's up top. We have this as well. Notice I'm not too worried about constraining my mark to the outline of the surface itself. And this part of the front cabinet is also cast in a little bit of shadow. So you see that the effect that the gray starts to have on the composition. I left out some color over here, so I'm going to apply it. I should have rendered those guys and the front of this. Alright? It's okay. And let's add the gray there as well. So all of this is slightly in shadow. Right? That is darker. You can apply it in layers. Then underneath the wall cabinet itself, we have an area that's cast from the wall cabinet above. Well, we'll stop there. You want to get to a point where you apply the light colors and combine the gray to give it this volumetric effect. Thanks.